morning. I will call the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners to order for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 9 o'clock at Chatham Road. We are going to have an executive session, but that will be at the end of the meeting. So I would start off with public comment. Anybody has any public comment? And I don't see anything. Next, we have the minutes from December 3rd, December 17th, and January 7th.
So moved, Mr. President.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so 4-0. The next item is this abatement we heard back in October. I'll just give a little background. These ladies are from 783 Route 28, which is the WeCan operation. And they had, a really unusual, I would call it, situation where we just had an anomaly, an unknown water loss, usage, whatever, sometime in the third quarter of 500,000 gallons of water, so a $3,000 bill. What we've done since then, and we have Wellesley here, billing maestro, to give more of the details, is when we discussed it last October, what we noticed then was that after the reading in September, there had been an additional usage of like 19,000 gallons, which went into the next quarter. And even that is extremely high for this operation. Particularly in the winter, they run 4,000 or 5,000 gallons per quarter. So that made us uncomfortable with settling the situation because we didn't know if it was over yet or if it had been resolved yet. So we all kind of agreed to do some further documentation and look at it. And I really thought that, having the daily reads going on in there, that something was going to pop out, that would make sense. Unfortunately, and I'll let Wellesley jump in here, and she was kind enough to do this overview for the board. But so far, nothing has popped up, so I'm going to hand it off to Wellesley here to talk about the information gathered from the e-coders.
Thank you. Yes, so I've included a summary in your packet for the property. And in going through the history, unfortunately, the meter that was in there prior to us changing it to the e-coder was one of our traditional meters that does not hold any data in it. And so whatever happened to the property happened sometime from the end of June all the way through to when we noticed the additional 19,000 gallons at the beginning of October. At that point, we installed an e-coder to monitor. It holds 96 days of data, and we've been monitoring it ever since then, and we'll continue to monitor it over the next few months as the seasons change, because we can't be sure at this point that there might not still be something happening that may have caused this to go through the meter. It is a very unusual event because from talking with the property managers, nothing could be traced to any particular event. We had the meter tested; it tested accurate. The technician could see no signs of anything. We don't know the state of the septic, if something went into the septic. We don't know if the property owners looked into that avenue. But at this point, we will continue to monitor it because we're just not sure about what may have caused this. Now, we are aware that there is a back building that has a bathroom and a kitchen. We don't know the condition of that private line going under, And we don't know how often that building's used, if it's used over the winter, maybe it's shut off. We just don't know the mechanics of the property as far as the private line. And that's why we're going to continue to monitor it. But as for this bill and this event, under our rules and regulations, you do have the option of giving a disaster rate, consideration, given the facts that we have so far.
Excuse me.
And that we can't trace it back to any particular event. The meter was working, so what we just want to make sure of is that whatever may have caused this will not happen again. And coming into another season, that's what we're going to really keep an eye on. So we have scheduled readings quarterly, in addition to the quarterly billing reads, just to make sure as the season gets going again, irrigation goes back on, or the drip system, the back building, just everything on the property resumes back into the season in which this occurred. So at this point, it's kind of frustrating that we don't know what caused this, obviously to us and for the property owners. But we're just at this point hoping it doesn't happen again. But for this time, I did calculations, should you want to consider the disaster rate, and that's at the bottom of the summary. And, obviously, as we get more data, we can continue to share it with you, the board, and property owners.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
So can you explain a little bit about the back building? Is it occupied? And it comes through the meter, right? Everything comes through one meter.
I believe that's true, that it all comes through one meter. The back building is used infrequently at best, and that would be across all seasons. It's kind of like a meeting room with a bathroom and a very small kitchen, has a sink and a fridge in the back.
Could the toilet be leaking at all?
There's been no evidence of that. Inside or externally, we haven't seen that.
Sometimes the stopper on the inside of the toilet, I've had this problem, where it just runs continuously and you don't notice it.
Yeah,
So, do you guys have access to that building?
yeah, we're in there, people put their lunch in the fridge, go in and
Okay.
out, but it's used, I would say, infrequently. But we do go back there to make sure the heat is on, and I have not seen any evidence of the toilet running.
I just wanted to interject, if I could, that if there had been a problem with that during this period, correct me if I'm wrong, Wellesley, that would have been shown up on the daily readings that Wellesley has been monitoring since September.
So the daily readings are settling down now, or not?
So since putting the e-coder in, it has not indicated any leaks, and it looks like it's resumed back to its usual usage of, maybe 100 gallons a day, which is typical for, using the restroom, washing your hands, that sort of usage. So the historic data for the property is in line with what we're seeing now. So whatever caused this event was up to the first week in October.
Can I ask a question? Could it be that, it's just throwing it out there, 'cause I'm not an engineer, could it be that the water never actually came through, just that the old meter was something wrong with it? And do you know what I mean?
The meter was tested.
The meter was tested?
The meter was tested.
And so the water did go through. So hard.
This is a strange one, right?
Yeah. So really strange, but, so unfortunately, since we haven't really learned anything, we'll keep monitoring this into the summer season and on from there. Maybe it will just plain never happen again. These, Wellesley tells me these are unbelievably unusual circumstances. But, enough time has gone by when we didn't learn anything that I'm sure for you guys worrying about this as well as our own books, we'd kind of like to settle this portion of it rather than carry it into next year. I know that's hard for you guys because it's such a totally unknown thing. I'll point out to the
One more
commission,
question.
in just one second, I'll go right to you after this. The page that's included in your packet is the page from our water regs for disasters. And that's the one that we've referred to in the past, that where we charge the water, but we charge it at the base rate. So the way we look at that is the town gets water coverage. It would be the same thing as if there were 20 houses in a row that only used a little, rather than one place, for instance, if it was a place that used a ton of irrigation or, something like that. So if the board is so inclined to consider that, then we can consider that as a method of settling the charges. And I think Wellesley work goes out and they would be approximately 700. So that's one of the things we're discussing. Go ahead.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay. So the only other thing I can say is, all right, so my background is really the electric industry, but in that, we were only able to go back 2 years to settle problems. I'm not sure if I think Dan will tell me there aren't restrictions in the water, it's not as regulated. But what I'm leading to is that, let's say next August, all of a sudden we found something out that pertained to this situation. There would be no reason why we couldn't consider that evidence, at that time as part of the whole picture, since it's an unresolved situation. So that's one of the things we can do, folks. Take input as to what else we might do. I don't know the answer.
Are there labor charges on our side?
No,
This is just all water?
it's just water.
Do you guys have anything to say? I mean, you noticed anything, or is this just completely out of the woods here?
Not me, everything seems normal to
I
me.
know.
You don't have overblooming plants or anything? I mean, really, nobody's washing their cars or,
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we operate Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and, so, we're a pretty tight operation,
You're a 501c3, right?
We are,
Yeah.
and we don't have any, we don't have any grass on the property at all, so, we're very minimal. We try to be use as minimal resources as possible in our day-to-day work. So this just kind of blew us away, I mean, this just comes very unexpected. I think we've done everything that we can do to see if there's a problem. And I mean, my only comment would be, if there's anything else we should be monitoring, we'll certainly monitor the back building, but that's definitely not something that we've picked up on. Like I said, minimal use back there. But if there's something else that we should be monitoring, in real time, then we would, want to be doing that as well.
Did you try one of those pills in the toilet? We've got some.
Yeah, it's just like what she's saying is check for leaks in the toilets. So,
Yeah.
in the future, just listen for the toilets, see if you can hear them running,
Yeah.
anything like that. But from what I understand, that everything is stopped now.
Yeah.
Did your neighbors do any car washes and maybe put a hose up to your outdoor?
If
Because
I-
you guys have an outdoor spigot, right?
We do.
If I do remember correctly, you said you replaced the bathroom toilets and everything. You got a grant for that?
Yeah, just the toilet in the interior, the main building. And that was really just, on our capital upgrade plan. It wasn't like there was something wrong and going
Right.
wrong. So, I don't know, the neighbors, I mean, the neighborhood comes alive in June, July,
Yeah.
all year long, with the exception of Bass River Barbecue, which is next door, and they're good neighbors, they don't seem to do anything
I don't
nefarious.
see how they could possibly use
Me
500,000 gallons. I know.
But I'm sure,
You
there
know,
are houses
It's such an
perimeter
anomaly.
of the building that goes, is that Keene Street, Keene Road?
Yeah, I'm
Because
pretty
we've
familiar
done-
with the building.
Yeah, I mean, it
I
was
just
just a
don't-
weird thing, I don't know what to say.
My concern is here, you guys are a 501c3, this is a very high bill. I mean, I would completely be in this agreement to do the disaster rate. And it does say in this, in our paper that was given to us, that we can consider that as disaster forgiveness occurrence. It also says that abatements can be determined for high consumption or water leaks unless otherwise determined by the Board of Wastewater Commissioners. So I don't know if we could go to disaster tier and maybe you guys do some payments in the hopes that we find this, and if it could be resolved, I don't know. I'm just trying to get to some sort of solution that's
We would appreciate.
doesn't break you guys.
No, but we would appreciate the consideration of that rate. Certainly, that's a much easier to wrap our arms around than the original bill.
Sure.
And, we're prepared to, pay in full. I mean, that's, our, from just a financial responsibility perspective.
And as far as your monitoring, with the continued monitoring from it's called the E-Coder, is it? Yeah. I think that if something happens similar, it's going to pop out, immediately. Within a few days, Wellesley's going to see a gigantic, or whenever you get the report, when you get the readings from them. So I don't really think that you would need to. I would just, if I was you guys, I would pay really close attention to when things were turned on and off, like your drip irrigation that was there when you bought the place. Just write down and let us know when that gets turned back on or anything. But as far as your daily use, there's really nothing. I mean, we see your use, it's so minimal, it's less than a normal house, so there's nothing to monitor there. But just anybody who does any work on the property, if you'll just keep a record of that for our records.
Was the bathroom put in during this time period, the new bathroom?
It's just a toilet.
Yeah, that's all. We
And yes.
Well, but was it put in during this time period? I mean,
It was in August.
yeah.
that wouldn't have produced that amount of, if something wasn't sealed properly, or, I don't know.
I don't know when it was put on.
When we discussed this in October, the ladies told us that it was put in,
August.
how do I call it, as a home improvement, not because the
Yeah.
toilet was broken, just for the record.
You upgraded it.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Possibly, is this something in an installation of a new toilet that you could lose this amount of water if something
No,
wasn't?
not on the installation.
It would be very unusual, right?
You haven't had to pump the septic, have you?
We're on a regular, I think it's
Yeah,
2 to
a
3 year
maintenance,
pump
yeah.
maintenance plan. We haven't had any situations that's required that.
When I had my septic pump last year, they did cut my irrigation line. I didn't know that happened calmly. They also fixed it, which was nice, but I almost wish you had septic. I wish there was an answer.
I'll make a motion that we do the disaster rate and continue to monitor this.
Along with a payment plan.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
So that would, for discussion, that would be the amount that Wellesley calculated for $7.17 and 10 cents. Wellesley?
If I may add, just for water usage,
Yeah.
we're also going to be adding on the base rate of 45, so that's in addition to.
the what?
The
It's
$45
in addition to the
base
base
rate.
rate.
Okay,
So-
yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind just keeping it general, so it's not
Okay,
as many, because
yeah,
I'm going to
I
add
see.
the base ends.
All right. In the neighborhood of 700 plus applicable expenses, how's that?
Yeah, or basic rate.
Any further discussion? I really thought we'd have an answer for you ladies, but
Mystery.
we
Harwich
will absolutely keep looking at this,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If anything
And
happens on the bill, just run right in here and tell us. So.
Okay.
well, I think hopefully Wellesley will know first, but, and, we'll stay in touch.
And so will we see that reflected in our next quarterly bill, or is it a special bill?
If you wouldn't mind, I'll actually, after our meeting here,
Okay.
I'll prepare it for you, and I also would like to give you some more information for monitoring the meter.
Okay, great. Terrific. All right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an aye, 4-0.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
It's one of those
we'll just
things.
keep looking at the mystery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
An unusual one, huh?
Very
It's
strange.
only one.
See, all these things have happened since you
We're
left.
in a simulation.
All right, so next on the agenda, we're going to skip with the board's permission. We'll come back to the contracts, and we're going to skip to new business and talk about water rates and water debt. We have Dan here from Waterworks Consulting, one of our consultants, so.
You're up.
You're up there.
All right.
There's nothing in the packet on this, Alan, just so you know.
I failed to bring attachments, so you'll have to take my word for right now, but I would plan to come back in a subsequent meeting to go over everything more comprehensively. But I was able to get from Sandy the FY26 water budget, an updated capital plan, which had a wealth of information in it. I had looked at the revenue projections that Sandy had put together for FY26 that included a $10 base rate, and the revenues ability to support the FY26 budget, which does reflect an increase in some debt from the Route 28 project, and FY26 all looks great. So assuming you move forward with the $10 base rate increase, you guys are all set there. Moving forward, I guess looking at the revised capital plan 26 to 30, the rate scenario that you guys have been following right now that had the $10 base rate this year and percentage increases to the tiers the following 2 years was put together when we had originally conceived or thought that the Route 28 project was going to be north of $17 million, and with a capital plan that doesn't include the recent additions. So I guess what I would recommend we do from this point moving forward is to go back and look at the capital plan, whether we should fund or what we should fund from retained earnings, what from that plan may need to be funded with debt, and then look at what rate scenario you would need for FY27 through FY30 to support all that. What I would want to do as part of that exercise is update the rate model that we put together back in 2018. I think Sandy can attest that it has been pretty accurate in estimating our revenue thus far, but it was established kind of shortly into quarterly billing, and I think it's been about 5 years. It's probably appropriate to go back and recalibrate all of those assumptions and bring it up to 2025 as part of that exercise, but that would kind of lay out where to go from here.
So we don't have to do anything this year?
I would recommend the $10 base rate increase this year.
Okay.
Just for Bob's sake, since he's going through his first year, when we get to the point where we're actually looking at the water tables, what you'll see, Bob, what remember is, you know, the revenue spelled out, the debt spelled out for each year and everything else, so that we can make a determination of how close we want to get. So just so you'll know, that's the ultimate.
I would appreciate knowing how the debt in 2018 versus climbing to 2025, inflation-wise, how did that perform as, you know, opposed to the rates being set? I would just like to see that, because it's such an unusual time frame, you know?
Unfortunately, I will say that the makeup of our debt changed dramatically from FY18 to now, so it's hard to compare. Only because, and you guys, I wasn't here in FY18, but the estimates, you know, like the Route 28 project was originally estimated at 17 million, now it's 10 million. We had another 10 million in there for infrastructure needs, which didn't work out that way through the government, you know, for the Biden infrastructure plan, so that dropped out. So it's hard to compare them in this particular circumstance.
Too, that there was a number of debt items that fell off
Yeah.
between 18 and now that afforded the department to increase various operational line items when that debt fell off. So the debt line item has gone down since 2018, is about to tick back up with Route 28 and any other debt excluded or debt funded projects you ultimately do. But if you're looking at year over year, you would see it drop down, because I think we had tank project fall off, Lothrope. Couple of projects fell off in that.
So we want to call it a $10 base rate instead of like capital improvement costs or something.
I'm not,
I'm only putting that out there because when people say, well, why are you charging us $10 when we didn't before? Instead, I want to be able to defend it and say, well, we're doing this, this, and this.
I would have, my answer would absolutely be Route 28. You know, no question about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my input.
And the Route 28, I mean, a $10 base rate equates to about $400,000 in additional revenue in a given year for the department. The Route 28 project, you're probably more familiar with it now, is it 148 of that?
What?
I looked at it last night. You have a total of $748,000, I think, in debt, and of that,
But you don't really want to tie the $10 directly, in my mind, to the Route 28,
is
because
Route 28.
people in this town are going to be like, well, I live in East Harwich, why am I paying another $10? Do you know what I
But
mean?
it's a total water,
It's
you're
a
doing the
total
whole water
water,
system.
it's a total
And
water
that's-
See, it's
system.
not like it's just,
Right,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't
might-
identify as one particular project.
In my previous incarnation as a water commissioner in California, we had a $165 a year parcel tax that we had to defend, that went to USDA to pay for these kind of capital improvements, because it was such bad shape, we had to pay that every year, and so people got used to it, but they did want explanations, as this debt got paid or this project got paid, you move to the next one. And it was just, I found it
But-
easier for us.
But, I can tell you many a year that Route 28 paid for East Harwich. So there's no
Right,
room for any
exactly.
discussion,
Yeah.
as far as I'm
And
concerned.
it does get, in the annual book, and Dan always, at town meeting, has always been very explicit about what money goes, what's being paid for, and folks do go through our minutes, believe it or not. I think we just the way things are right now in this town, I wouldn't, I would say it's it's the whole system, because it
It is
is the
the
whole
whole
system.
But that's
Yes.
normally how we do it. It's a
Right.
capital
Yes,
program, and this is the funding we need.
For your historical knowledge, this department went many years, maybe too many in a way, with very few increases at all for many years. It's only been in the past few years when the projects have gotten so much more expensive that we've had to really start looking at rates, so.
I think it's
More
eminently
houses, more
defensible.
people.
I'm sorry,
More houses and more people.
Yeah.
but they're paying for their water, aren't they? So if we charge them the right amount, more houses, more people don't matter.
Well, they have to pay for their infrastructure to get the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That sounds good for this year. I will say a couple of things. Given our capital plan is heavily loaded for next year, it would be nice that when you come back and we look at the whole water rate chart, if we're able to look out pretty clearly to next year as it is, so we wouldn't have to, I get asked all the time about water rates, and you know, it's hard to be vague to people about them.
You can tell them you're voting $10 this year and to expect 5% next year. It's easier next year when you
That's
pay
right,
the 5%
that's right.
back.
And the only other thing I'll say about our capital plan and how it falls is that for the FY28 number for that building, I don't trust that number. We've talked about looking into it further. We've never had a chance to do that. So at some point during this year, hopefully before the fall, we've got to start looking into that building amount, you know, however we decide as a board to do it. Because otherwise we'll be facing another capital plan when we're vague, and we don't want that. We're back up to normal. So that's one thing. So when you do the more, I would have those concerns in my mind. In terms of settling things for this year, we had the opportunity, Sandy, Jason, and I, a couple of weeks ago to meet with the interim finance director. This actually has to do, it was really more about wastewater and the subsidy, you know, that we argue about every year back and forth with the wastewater subsidy, about whether it's 100,000 that comes from us or it all comes from them, and that's still up in the air. We presented different information to them, and hopefully they'll get back to us pretty soon with an answer on that wastewater subsidy that goes back and forth. A piece of that is, the board may remember last year, we had a lot of discussion about our indirect costs on both water and wastewater, because with the different financial directors, they had used different methods from one year to the next to the next. And last year, at the budget meeting, this board argued and kept the rates flat because we were upset about the changes going from financial director to financial director. This financial director has gone back to the old tried and true methods. So that is settled for now anyway, that's good. And we'll see that reduction in next year's, and we still need to write a policy, but that's another story. But what I did want to ask the board at this time related to water rates, since time is getting short in terms of the warrant and the budget and the town. Last year, and this will play into, I guess, into the $10, well, not the $10 so much, but next year's. Last year, we took 1 million of our retained earnings from water and put it towards the painting of the Pleasant Lake tank. Originally, that job was estimated to be 1.75 million. Then when they got closer, they said 1.4 million. Right now, I think the construction is kind of hanging around 1 million.
Yeah.
I don't have the Haley contract right in front of me, but the engineering costs, I'm going to say, were around 220,000, but I'm not sure. But Jason definitely has a copy of that. So at any rate, the 1 million we put towards this is not enough. You know, I mean, it was a good thing to do, and we were being prudent and frugal. So this year, what I'm suggesting we do is that we take another, whatever the right number is, 400,000, 450,000, whatever the right number is, from our water retained earnings through an article at town meeting in May to pay for the balance of the project. That way we won't have to borrow on that project. We have 2.3 in retained earnings. It seems reasonable. So that's actually something we'd need to vote on. And I don't know if you have any input to that, Dan.
My only thought would be whether or not you need an article for it.
Well, we talked about, yeah, I'm going to let the finance director figure that part out, you know.
I don't know.
Only because they
Yeah.
usually, when they write the article, general such that it's to raise, appropriate, or transfer from available funds
Right.
a sufficient sum of money. And so I believe they gave you the authorization to both use a portion of retained earnings and borrow up to
They're authorized to borrow.
Yeah.
$750,000 should you need it. But I don't know that that puts a cap on the amount that you can contribute from retained earnings. That would be a legal counsel.
Yeah, it's not at our
question,
level,
but
yeah.
Either way, I don't think there's harm in doing an article. You could say, hey, we actually have some money and we're not gonna borrow it, so.
I just want to make sure we have it. It's a 6-week-long project, it's going to happen in the fall. Right now, we only have $1 million, so that's a problem. And they're not going to borrow this year. The town is not going to borrow this year, they've decided, so.
And is there, can we just make a vote right now that we want another
Yeah.
$500K?
Yep.
And it doesn't need to go before town meeting because it's already been
It has to,
awarded?
no, well, I'm not going to
I don't know.
argue.
Yeah, that's gonna be something for the finance
Yeah,
and how they,
for them to
and the
figure out.
attorneys and to put it before, where they have to rescind the article and present a new article to town
Our
meeting,
business.
saying that that's what they're gonna do, but yeah, that is gonna be,
So you just
We have
want
time. We have time.
direction from the board to go in that direction?
Okay, so what I would like is, I don't know if we've gotten any closer to the number that we want to say. Is it 1.4 million? Is it 1.450?
so I just got the contract back this morning. The wording on the contract with the insurance was not correct to what we
Yeah.
want for them to have insurance. I just emailed it back to him this morning. They're gonna make the corrections, and then I'll be able to come up with a good number, and I'll talk with them about that, so.
We're good.
So is
I
that
need a
the
little-
engineering number?
Yeah.
Oh,
The engineering is $153,000.
okay. So when you say you'll get a better number,
Once the contract is ironed out, I can go and talk to them and say, what have you gotten for numbers? And he'll tell me what the projected estimate would be on painting the tank. So if
for
he's saying.
construction,
Yeah, and then, so he'll come in with a number, then he'll put a contingency on it.
Right.
And say, this is how much we're gonna need. But he's
So-
saying,
yeah, I get so nervous this time of year, dear knows.
Do we need a 10% buffer too, or would we just go back if something happened? I
It's
don't
not,
know.
it's not easy to go back, because anything out of retained earnings in general has to go through town meeting, so we should deal with it.
So can that come in as agenda item with an exact amount?
It's
so
definitely.
let's say we, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right, no, go ahead.
Let's say we go to town meeting and say we'd like to take up to $600,000 out of retained earnings to pay for the painting of the tank. If we only use $400,000 out of retained earnings, that 200 stays in retained earnings.
Okay.
So
But it could
if that's what you
appear, it could
want.
appear on our agenda as an approve
Mhm.
tank painting up to 600,000.
I think it's under water rates myself, I think it's here right now, but I'll get there in a minute,
What do you mean to say?
Why would
I
it
don't
be-
understand.
Yeah.
I think it's on this agenda under water rates, but it's not a big.
Oh, the request for.
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
not a huge issue to me either way. It's just,
I think it reflects what you're doing.
right. So,
Well, when somebody say, why'd you go to town meeting? Because we're asking for up to 600,000 additional.
yeah. Are you saying, all right, first of all, we need an amount, and then we have to
Right.
decide when we vote. And, it's just that it's getting very late in town. I want to all right, now I'm jumping around all over the place. Okay, another consideration, for instance, is the fact that I was going to mention this during Commissioner's report, we've been invited to the FinCom meeting in March. They're going back to their old method of having, separate meetings for some departments between Select Board and this. They want a budget. Right now, we don't have a budget to give to anyone, so that's a problem in the middle of February. So one thing was stuck, we're waiting on Town Hall to come back with some of the options we gave them. I guess I'd just like to see some of the ducks start to line up,
Couldn't we draft something and just meet later this week or next week to vote on that?
Well, we don't have to do that. We can either vote now or we can vote it
Oh, we
on
can
next
vote now.
meeting. I mean, I,
No, no, let's not rush this. Let's do the right thing. Let's put everything together and go through the process. Because they're wishy-washy, we don't have to be.
okay. All right, so we're gonna have to nail down a number by our next meeting.
I can do that.
When does the warrant close?
Pardon me?
Does the warrant?
Yeah, doesn't it close like, when?
Warren closed on the 14th.
Of February?
Yeah.
No,
But prior to that, with Sandy and Jason present, I expressed our need for this situation to be resolved. So, I mean, a placeholder has either been created or not. That's up to
Or
the
will be?
finance.
Yeah.
Or will be, yeah.
Yeah, that's up to the finance director. I'm not interfering in that, so. Okay, so at any rate, does the board, or we could force them to borrow, which I don't think we would get too far with, the town to borrow for us. And I'd rather not borrow anyway, because I'd rather not pay the interest on this amount of money. It's not an SRF, and also it's neater if we have one less project on our debt schedule.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. We just
Yeah.
gotta do the process, and we have enough retained earnings to cover this.
Yeah.
I don't see why this is gonna be an issue at town meeting. I think people will support it.
Oh, yeah, it's our own business. It's
Yeah.
just moving money from one shell to another shell.
beach buying a new tank.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about town meeting at all. Okay, so I'll bring something back for the March 4th meeting, or the March whenever meeting,
When is the FinCom meeting?
the 6th.
I won't be here for that.
You're invited, but it's not mandatory, you
I'd
know.
like to
it's-
go, but I can't make it.
Huh?
I can't make
Yeah.
the 6th, so.
But I'll mention that again in our commissioner's report, so. All right, so for that portion, we'll come up with some kind of a number. I personally don't know about the up to 600 idea.
They'll give me a number with contingencies,
Yeah, I know.
and then if we say we wanted to take for 600,000 out of retained earnings, just say hypothetically, then if whatever we don't use just goes back in.
Yeah, that part I know. I just, in my own experience, I always dealt with a number, not an up to number, you know.
I'm not doing an up to number, I'll just say 600.
Oh, okay.
I won't say up to, I'm
Then
just
I
gonna
won't
say
worry
600.
about it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you an up to, I'm gonna
Okay.
say 600.
Only because that
Yeah.
difference would be hanging out there back
Oh,
and forth for a
yeah.
while,
No,
and
no.
we wouldn't like that.
So it could be 400,000, but they're gonna say contingency, say $200,000
Yeah,
extra.
make the
So we'll say, just say 600,000.
Why didn't you paint the top 4 feet as a Right on
I
them.
think, yeah, exactly.
At least it wasn't the bottom 4 feet, right?
I think they're gonna be rolling it too. They're gonna be rolling it.
Put a logo on it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, me too.
I don't know, it's too high for me.
Now we got the irritation.
I think we should put solar panels on the outside, seriously.
So in general, back to the main part of water rates, on the FY '27 stuff, Dan,
I'll have to do a little homework and try and see if I can get a better number on the building.
yeah, well, that's 2 years out, but even on the '27, there's no programs or anything we use for those things, the Mill Road and the new well. I mean, the new well might be an opportunity for us to do some hunting for grants, you know, because the town, the state is always looking for that kind of thing.
Yes.
And it doesn't slow us down, we go right ahead with these, and then if a grant presents itself, all the better. You know what I mean? It's not like we have to hang, so, seems to me on the state.
One thing I would say about the treatment plant upgrade, the new well,
Yeah.
is the there's a high susceptibility to price fluctuation up until you can do which it may have already been done, but the groundwater testing to see what you're removing. You know, if it's simply iron and manganese, you know, it could be a simple expansion to the well 10 plant. If it's PFAS and some other mystery compound that requires a higher degree of treatment, you know, those costs could go up. So just as we look out and try to plan, just to understand that there's some potential variability in that project.
Yeah.
I have to step out for just a
Okay,
second. Take
go
the
right
phone.
ahead. All right. Any other questions on water rates?
So, not to leave, well, where do we stand on Walton?
I'm not sure.
On what?
Well, Ken.
Right now, they're looking at the Monomoy lens and the mod flow, and they have to redo a few things there. But the well, oh, you're talking well 10 or the new, it's gonna be well 12, I guess is what you could say. Yeah.
That's probably why.
And they're still looking at the Monomoy lens and the aquifer.
How many wells are in on Monomoy now?
Boy,
Huh?
I
None?
couldn't
It's like
tell you.
I
four
could, yeah.
towns, right?
couldn't
So
lie,
it's a
yeah.
lot.
They're a lot.
Oh, that's right, that's right. I gotta broaden my thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So years ago, they did what's called a mod flow on it, and I had to retrieve that from an engineering firm that was in New Jersey.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
got that, but it was outdated, and they have to do some, they have to do a little bit of updating to it, so that's where they are right now.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and now I got an email, they have to, they want to survey the land of where they're gonna put everything.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's gonna be the next thing, is the design phase.
Yeah,
So,
okay, all right.
yeah.
Yeah, things get rusty. I think that's where we were
Mhm.
last week,
Yep.
discussed it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right, so to continue on this, since it sounds like the appetite of the board is to probably go ahead with just the $10 increase in base rates for this year, it seems to me that we should plan our public hearing, because we still have to have a public hearing since it's a change in water rates, and that involves some special advertising. So we might as well look at our calendars and figure that out. So, let's see. If you guys have to advertise 2 weeks, right, Tracy?
Yes.
So, and you have the language for a standard water rate hearing?
Yeah.
And we don't have to discuss wastewater, so we don't have to mention that at this time. So, and that'll be just our vote, Dan, so that doesn't involve you coming back. You can come back after that with the whole look ahead for the further years. I know Bob's gonna be away for a week in March, but we know what we're doing. We know we're doing the $10. I don't know, is March 4th too early for advertising?
I don't have a calendar right now.
I don't have a calendar in front of me either.
I got one.
No. March 4th is too early.
Okay,
So the next
March-
week,
March 11th.
yeah, March 11th would be
Right.
good.
so Bob will be away,
Till the 12th, I'm back on the 12th.
right. So, what do we want to do? Do we want to skip the 4th meeting and have it later on the week of the 9th, so Bob can be here? We could go to a Thursday for a one-time thing. Otherwise, we go to the 18th, which is getting kinda, we still need to vote on the budget. We got a lot going on.
I mean, if we get the advertisement in by noon today, oh, no, the deadline's Monday, right, Tracy? I think it's Monday at noon, yeah, for Thursday or Friday's Chronicle.
Maybe since Monday was a holiday, they might
No,
have, probably not.
it would have been
So the
Friday, yeah.
the 13th, Thursday?
Yeah, how are people on the 13th of March?
I'm good.
What time?
9 o'clock, say? Or what do you have open?
The 12th, the 14th? When will I do?
You're open on the 12th and the 14th?
Yeah, 17, 18, 19, 20,
Okay, okay, we'll
21.
find one, we'll find one.
The 14th will work for me, that Friday.
Want to do a Friday for a one-time thing? So the 14th at 9 o'clock?
It works.
Okay, that way it doesn't go so far, hopefully by then, so I think we'll skip the meeting of the 4th. All right, folks? So on the 14th, well, by then, we should have the answers, Sandy should, and we can vote on our budgets, on the public hearing, on this transfer from retained earnings. We'll do it all.
We'll do it all.
All right, so we're not going to have a meeting on the 4th, so that makes Tracy and I very happy. We've been looking for a break. So we will have our public hearing on March 14th. Well, the meeting will be at 9. I'll let you guys figure out how you phrase it, whether it's 9:15 or, whatever it is you normally do. All right. That work?
That's good, because I couldn't make the 4th.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, and that gives us a little extra time to get some numbers a little firmer, and debt schedules for those who have them. Dan knows what I mean. So that's great. So we'll work around that, Dan. We'll wait till you let us know. You have a further outlooking, and have you back, in the spring sometime.
Yeah.
So that we'll kind of be all set, or knowing how set we are for the following year. That sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay?
Perfect.
Sandy and I will be in touch if there's any, changes.
Yeah.
I'll try and get some accurate numbers.
Yeah, I'd like to, maybe you and I can plan to sit down and tease out some of the numbers.
Mhm.
Cool. All right.
Do you have any questions of us?
I don't think so. I think I'm good. I'm gonna pick Wellesley's brain for some data, billing data. But should be good.
All right, we're gonna move on then. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I'll be around.
Thanks, Dan.
So, now we can move back to old business, which is the second versions of the 2 contracts for Route 28. I'll let you know that I haven't looked at it.
I'm
So,
sending that out to
I looked at the
council.
first version, but not the second version. So, did we get anything back from legal yet?
No.
Okay. So,
No, I don't.
I don't know if the board wants to dig into this, or if we should, I think we're probably better to wait and get the version back from legal.
Oh, you're sending this to
Yeah.
legal?
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
there, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would be my
Yeah.
recommendation to wait and see what they come back
Yeah,
with.
because
Yeah,
whatever they're gonna cut up.
And I did have that 2-page list. In the next couple of days, I'll tick through those with you,
Okay.
because I had sent some input in.
okay.
one thing I just want to let the board know, and I guess I'm comfortable with it, but it's a decision made by Town Hall. For this project, let's say we're talking about 8 million. Originally, the previous finance director had divided that up into two borrowings, one being 3.7 and one being 4.2. Last May, I mean, remember, they do these things, we don't always even know, you know. Last May, they borrowed the 3.7, so we're paying on that now. They've made a decision not to borrow this May. It saves them an enormous amount of work, and they don't have any town projects. Normally ours is grouped with town stuff that make it necessary. Jason knows, because this came up at our meeting a couple of weeks ago. It makes me a little uncomfortable only because we're going to start construction, you know, and you know, so I hope we have enough money to get through the fiscal year, which is what I said to the finance directors. We will have to hold them. On the other hand, we're not paying extraordinarily high interest, you know, which we have since last May when they borrowed on a project that hasn't even, you know, come close to breaking ground. So, you know, one kind of weighs out the other. But I wanted to make the board aware of it.
Do they take the funds before the project started? I mean,
If we borrow it, sure. In a case we've borrowed the money, so we have to pay back our borrower.
Oh, so the borrowing of the money is not contingent on the time when you need the money?
No,
Okay.
no, not in this case. On SRF projects, it's different, but
Okay.
this was a regular, normal, you know, project. On SRF, they give you the money up front.
So can you just explain what you say when you mean that you're nervous that we're not gonna have enough money? 'Cause
Okay,
to me, that's like, that makes, I
because
need to understand that
right now we have 3.7 that they borrowed last May.
for this project that will
Right.
start
Okay.
shortly.
We're already, you know, paying engineering bills and doing things like that. So we've used a couple of $100,000. So let's say we have 3.5 million,
Yeah,
all right? Construction will start in September on the east portion, that very big portion. And from the information that Bob Drake gave us last month, that portion will be 5 million. So we have 3.5 million, and that portion will be 5 million. But they're not gonna do it all in one, you know, fell swoop in 1 year. It's gonna be over a couple of years. So it just makes me a teeny bit nervous that we don't have that money in our pocket. We have 3.5 million, and we're going ahead with construction for 5
but
million.
they must have a timeline
Yeah.
of when projects and what funds are gonna be needed.
Right.
Are they mismatched or?
No, they just feel confident that the 3.5 will hold us through the expenses that actually
They
come up
being town
in
hall or the
FY26.
engineers?
They being the borrowers who are Town Hall, the finance director.
I don't see much we can do.
No, there isn't.
No, I think it's-
I think you gotta let go
I
of
think
it,
it's a great
it's out of your
Yeah.
control.
I think it's a great plan, we're not paying on any more debt.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
is that interest, is our department paying that, or is the town paying that until it kicks off?
We, in water, we pay for everything
Yeah.
as
Okay.
it comes, yeah. It's right in our budget.
I just
Yeah.
asking.
No.
I don't
Just
think we can
information.
negotiate
I'm
it.
just telling you all my
It's done, right?
concerns. If I hear stuff, I like it to.
So hypothetically, let's say the project goes twice as fast
Right.
as anybody anticipated. What happens? I
We-
mean, is that even, that's not even, it's not even a hypothetical,
Right,
right?
especially when
Never
we're
happened.
Let's
dealing
not
with.
get into hype.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when
So
we're-
you need
Let's
to let
just
go
deal
of the
with-
nervousness,
Yeah.
because you're making me nervous.
Yeah, I can feel the nerves on both sides.
Welcome,
Yeah,
welcome to my world.
Yeah.
You gotta let it
Let's just
go.
keep an eye on this world.
Well, especially also, the comfort I get is that we're dealing with Mass DOT. As Alan always tells us, everything takes 4 times as long
Yes.
as at Mass DOT, so
I
that's the
got
deal.
plenty of history.
Yeah, right, so,
Lots of.
okay, so
I
we'll,
don't get too worked up on
we'll
this.
be, if we're fortunate, we might even be signing these contracts on March 14th.
Yes,
That would be nice, to
That'd be
get
great.
these, and maybe even the,
I was hoping to have the tank one done, then
Yeah.
it came back and I was like, no, you gotta change this, so.
well, if I have to, we'll remind you guys, I won't use the word warn. That the 14th might be a long meeting and with a public hearing in it, but we got a lot of stuff to get done, so maybe we'll take a break after that.
Do what we gotta do.
That's right,
They pay us the big bucks for it.
that's right, that's right. So next is superintendent's report.
All right. Leak detection, we're getting all that in. Those are the new devices that we have. We scheduled training for the guys for March 4th and the 5th. So they'll be out and around town doing some training for that. The valve insertion, I just got a ship date. It's shipping out to us in March. March 11th. They're gonna ship all of the valve insertion machine here, and we have training set up for the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And we'll be around town, there'll be some training here in the yard. We'll get a classroom, about 4 hours of classroom training, and then we'll be out in the field installing 3 valves out in the field in our system. So, and then we'll be out there doing them ourselves. The tank painting contract, I updated you all on that. I'm waiting to get that back in. They messed up on some insurance, but I just want to get that insurance nailed down. Bay Road, there's no new news on Bay Road. We're still continuing the flush. So we're just waiting to hear back from contractor engineers on the main and the video that we gave to them. So we're waiting for that. Phase 3, they're moving right along on Phase 3. They're doing a good job. So far so good. Route 28, we talked about Route 28. And hopefully I'll be getting those contracts back and we can submit those and get those signed for, that will be a long meeting.
Yeah, it will be a long meeting.
So,
Well,
I
we'll warn you in advance so you have
kept it-
extra time.
I kept it brief for everyone, so there you go, that was
All
my,
right.
any questions or?
One question.
Kim?
Any movement with the grinder pump contract?
Not yet, they're
Okay.
reviewing that and that's gone out,
Yeah.
so.
Gone out?
I think that went out to council for a few things.
Okay.
And I'm gonna find out more about that today.
Okay. Commissioners report? Alan?
No? I'm on vacation.
I will be out of town from the 5th to the 12th, and then also the first week of May,
Yep,
I'll be gone.
I gotcha.
You've got something
Can't wait.
I can't wait.
new. Town meeting.
Well, one's
way.
my family in California, I don't have it.
Oh,
Oh, that's
that's
nice.
first.
Yeah, that is first.
Yeah.
So I just have
Up to
a
you.
couple of small things. I will mention, since we'll have an absence for a while, that we're always good with attendance, so I'm not worried about quorums, but, just in case, let me know if you're, not able to be here. But you guys always do anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. I know we'll be fine. Also, I'll go back to, I mentioned we got an invitation from FinCom. They originally, 5 o'clock, Jason, so you'll know, was the earliest I could get it. I'm aware of your schedule.
that's-
Yeah, they originally wanted him at 6:30, so did a little negotiation there. So it's not a huge thing.
And that's the 6th?
Yeah, a Thursday at 5 PM. So if you can make it, great.
What are you going to?
Remember in the old days, FinCom had the meetings with departments and select board, they've gone back to that. So FinCom invited us to come on March 6th. So if you'd like to come,
Sure.
maybe, I'm wondering, Tracy, maybe we'll post just to be on the safe side, because it's a
Sure.
ways away, and that way we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
What's the date?
March 6th, a Thursday, at 5 PM in the small hearing room.
Oh, that hasn't changed, has it?
No. The coldest room in Harwich, so
Is
keep
that,
that in
that's
mind
the
when
one
you dress.
behind the select board's room?
The one next door.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't been here all these years and not know that's called the small hearing room.
I don't think we ever called it that when we
Maybe they
used
call it the
it.
small meeting room.
Yeah.
Yeah, not hearing room.
Not
I
a,
get-
yeah,
I
because it
get
looks too
hearing-
small to be
Yeah,
a hearing
I
room.
get hearing
The
some.
small room.
The small.
Small room at the end of the hall by the bathroom.
How about the cold room?
And what's the
I
date?
remember
What
being
was the
cold.
date again?
March 6th.
There you go. Thank you.
Small meeting room.
And I want to ask Sandy if she wants to come, if that's all right.
I don't know.
And I think she's gonna be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sandy, see, you know, when we don't invite Sandy, we wish she was there, and when she's there, she's a good luck charm. Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
And I'll alert Jason that with these committees, it's supposed to be about budget, but they'll ask us anything. And the first question will be about, do you expect the water rates to go up? I mean, that's the public's point of view.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what they always do.
Oh.
Yes. Whether we do it or don't. Who the hell knows?
We expect it.
The other thing I just wanted to mention was somewhere in the packet, I guess at the very end, I don't know, I want to make sure people had a chance to notice it. There was a really nice letter from a customer, really nice. And I'm actually thinking, if I could drag myself to a select board meeting, that, did you see this? Okay, I was going to read it. That I might read it at public comment, I don't know, let you guys know. If you like, I'll read it into the record, it's only 3 paragraphs. Let me do that? Let me do that. So this came from a customer, and he
They may not
wrote,
want their address public.
what dear?
They may not want their address public.
I
It
didn't
is
say it.
public, isn't it?
Well, I didn't say it anyway, I said this came from a customer.
But because it's public information, so it was mailed to us.
It's in the packet,
Yeah.
yeah, at any rate. It says, in December, "Dear Jason, I'm writing to express my sincere appreciation for the exceptional service provided by the technician who came to our house at blah blah on Tuesday, November 26th at 10 a.m. to address a main valve leak. Unfortunately, I didn't catch his name, but his professionalism and kindness left a lasting impression. From the moment he arrived, he patiently and clearly explained how he could assist me, putting me at ease right away. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I certainly didn't anticipate someone as friendly, capable, and enthusiastic as him. He completed the task quickly and efficiently, all while maintaining such an approachable demeanor, important considering he had a 3-foot pipe wrench, so a little water humor thrown in. I was so impressed by his service that I offered a tip, which he kindly and repeatedly declined. It's rare to meet someone who generally enjoys their work and goes above and beyond to help others. His attitude and work ethic truly made me proud to be a part of the Harwich community. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge his outstanding service and let you know how much I appreciated it." So that was very nice of him to take the trouble to write such a beautiful letter.
Yeah.
Do we know who it was?
That's what I was going to ask.
It's the last page of the book. You gave it to me a while ago, and I think it missed.
Oh, yeah.
What's
right
that?
here.
You missed them.
I'm not going to ask the employee's name, I'm just going to ask if you know who it is.
I might have to look it up after. I
By the
meant
address,
to
you
do
probably-
that.
Yeah,
Was it?
figure it out.
I think it might have been, yeah, I think. Either him or Dan maybe.
Yes, I think it was Mike Lewis.
Okay. Probably put that in his
Or
file.
Dan Leahy, yes.
Yeah. But as I say, if you ever hear me at public comment reading it,
Yeah,
you'll know what it is.
beautiful.
We'll see. Don't like to go out in the cold, but that was really nice of them to do that. So, next meeting, we've already determined to be March 14th, so we get a little break. And with that said, with nothing else, I'm going to announce that we're going to be going into executive session. The reasons will be for two reasons. One, to review minutes and executive session minutes, and one, to look over some employee matters. And as I said, we will not be returning to regular session. So I would take a motion to move into executive session.
So,
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's 4-0.